I have 3 questions for you I would like you to answer in succession. The first,
I'm excited. I'm ready. Let's go.
how do you feel about the Victory Road card as like a card including all the like talky segments for their first 3-hour pay-per-view?
Subtracted away from the build.
No, build will be question number 2. So just the card, just the succession of
The
matches.
card itself, I think, is fine. I think AJ PD on paper is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Triple X AMW stuff on paper is interesting. I think the main event is decent for that show.
Do you think it's the right main event? Jarrett Hardy in a ladder match?
If it has to have Jarrett in it, yes.
Not Monty?
No, it's Jeff. You gotta have Jeff. If it, like, in an ideal world, Jeff won the last match, and I'd just take Jeff Monty. But if Jarrett has to be in it, I think Jeff's the right opponent.
I suppose, especially for the first 3-hour Sunday pay-per-view, Jeff is there with Raven as the guys who are there regularly, who have the most name value.
Well, that's another one. I do think the Monsters Bowl match is a really good match on paper, too. The tag match is bad on paper.
You don't like the 3 Live Crew?
Oh, what a shocking development.
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, the 4v4 was even, like, promoted.
They did mention it. They didn't mention who was in it, actually, on television. They did mention there's an 8-man tag when Johnny B. Bad had a match on the Go Home show, and they mentioned Johnny B. Bad would be in the 8-man tag, but didn't say what the 8-man tag would be.
Okay, well then that's irrelevant to this point. And I think the X Division Gauntlet was, like, is something that definitely should have been on this show. So I think if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it like a B-. To
be fair, I wasn't paying enough attention to the scroll on the Go Home show. They might have listed the 8-man tag there, but I wasn't paying attention to it.
Well, if they did list it, then I'm giving it a C+.
No, stick with B-.
So you better hope they didn't announce it.
To be fair, that 8-man tag was meant to be Killings and Dusty against Cash and Dallas, but again, Kid Cash had a month, which we will talk about in a moment. So B- for the card itself.
For the card on paper.
I think I broadly agree. It's like you get your X Division Flippy-Doo match. You get your defining tag team feud with Triple X and AMW. Like, Hardy is probably the right guy for the main event. I would have thought about Monty. I would have thought about Raven. But Raven's probably too cold at the moment. It would have needed a longer build.
Also, Raven's a heel.
And if you were gonna do Monty probably has to win. So if you want Jarrett to retain, Hardy's probably the right guy.
I maybe would have done Jeff versus Raven as the main event and then had Monty beat Jarrett on the undercard.
That would require Jarrett losing multiple matches.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one.
You know.
Yeah, Styles and PD is like the first time ever X Division dream match, you know, the up-and-comer champion versus the guy who's the established X Division guy. That makes sense. You get your minis match just for variety. You do get the tease of the Outsiders, which brings mainstream appeal. You do get the Roddy Piper segment, which brings mainstream appeal. You might not love it, but those guys are stars and names and will attract some attention on pay-per-view. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, a low B. Maybe as high as a B. No, B- feels right.
Yeah, if it had like a... See, I can't get too mad at it, because this is just on paper talking about it. I can't get too mad at Jarrett and Hardy, but not a match that excites me personally.
At the very least, it's a ladder match. It's Hardy's first ladder match in TNA. You get a little bit of, like, pull from that.
There's a little spice to it.
Alright, so we've talked card. How do you feel about build?
I think I'd go as far as a B to a B+ on the build.
You did learn comprehensively that P.D. Williams is an amazing athlete.
Well, Garrett, did you know that P.D. Williams is an amazing athlete and the first X Division champion with a deadly weapon that no one has been able to survive, the Canadian Destroyer?
I'm gonna wake up in a fever dream in like 6 months and just hear the words, P.D. Williams is an amazing athlete.
So for those of you who don't know, I think we have a new contender for most played vignette
ever
throughout the entire series.
History of wrestling. Never mind this series. Ever.
A minimum of 7 times in 6 weeks.
They played this because it's a nice idea that, you know, it's like TNAWrestling.com presents a feature about Victory Road, and it's like, it'd be great if they had more than one. They didn't. they played the same one
or
over
if they
and
didn't
over.
run like 3 of these features in a row on one of the episodes.
Including, like, they ran this Styles and PD package twice on one of these episodes, and I'm like, guys, please, I don't want to hear the words PD Williams is an amazing athlete ever again.
Yeah, I have like PTSD about it. But overall, I actually really thought the build to this was good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they gave a lot of time to everything. It kind of proves our point from a few months ago that wrestling should probably just be TV building to a big event, because I think all the shows benefited from this structure, unless you're doing like a New Japan like touring schedule. But I think that the main event was well built, even though it wasn't necessarily built around the match as much. I think it was a 50-50. I don't think it was like 70 Outsiders, 30 Hardy, because like once Hardy won the number one contendership, they did start building pretty heavily to the actual match. I think that the X Division stuff had like fumbled a little bit at the start, but throughout the attacks and the build, I think they got the Team Canada AJ stuff feeling good. I think that the tag match that should have been the title match, AMW and Triple X, was really well built throughout. I thought they did an interesting story, but obviously not a great payoff there. The title match, who gives a shit, kind of thrown together, it feels like, but whatever. I think the Roddy Piper, although problematic, was pretty decently built to his segment.
Problematic in so many ways in the end.
Yeah. I think TNA like sometimes falls into this pothole of we're just gonna go out there and throw the X Division multi-man on the show with no real build. Like, even this had build. It was only a couple matches, but you got to see everyone in the lead up to the X Division Gauntlet. So I think that was well done as well.
Yeah, because when you look at like the build to the X Division Gauntlet, which we'll get into beat for beat, but they spent a few weeks announcing competitors, and then a few weeks of those competitors having matches, the matches of which had stakes. So yeah, pretty good job to even make that feel at least somewhat important.
I love the Monsters Bowl build. It's just these 3 dudes murdering each other every week.
So B for the build, B- for the card itself. And then, without getting into specifics, which we'll go through all the specifics later, gut feeling after the pay-per-view. Thumbs up, thumbs down, success, failure.
It's
a complicated question, isn't it? It's a complicated show.
If I were to give it a grade, and I will, it would be a passing grade.
Mm-hmm.
But not a grade that you run home to mum and show her. Like a C?
Yeah, because there's like energy to the show, unlike a lot of the Asylum shows, even the big ones.
Oh, this felt like, the Asylum shows felt incomparable. Like, this show felt so much bigger and more important than anything they've done. With the exclusion of maybe the Raven Jarrett main event.
It helps that it's in the Impact Zone, in like the more aesthetically pleasing building. It helps that crowd was like fully invested in this night as being a special important night in company history. So there was great energy around the show. Even the throwaway tags, the crowd were into them all. It's not a show that was built for I think the likes of you and me to come away from it being like, you know, great match after great match, even though there are some very good matches on this show. But it's not like that home run 4 great matches you'll be talking about for the rest of your life kind of show.
It wasn't an NXT takeover, you know?
Yeah, it's more like, here's a little bit of everything, and a lot of that is good, and then some of it is not so good.
I don't know, I'm sure it was comparable to like any Fed pay-per-view at the time.
Probably even better than most. Like 03, 04 is a bad period for WWE. It's not good, so...
Yeah, I wouldn't like agree with anyone saying that this was like an awful pay-per-view.
And I think it's better than most Asylum pay-per-views. I came out of most Asylum pay-per-views thinking bad shows, bad company, occasional good things. And I come out of this one being like, if I were here in November 2004 and I plumped down my money and I watched this pay-per-view, I'd be like, I'll probably come back next month.
It also wasn't boring, which is like the biggest thing, where most of those Asylum shows were just dull. And this did feel like an event.
Yeah, especially the last year of the Asylum in particular. We've covered that to death. We can leave it behind us in the NWA era.